Ladies and gentlemen, today I want you to take a step back from emotions, from overthinking, and from the illusion that someone else determines your worth. Because here's the truth. The longer someone goes without you, the more they will feel it. But you don't wait for them to feel it. You grow, you rise, you evolve. See, time is the most powerful force in the universe. It's a teacher, a healer, and a revealer of truth. When someone leaves or distances themselves, their mind doesn't erase you. Oh no, it replays every memory, every conversation, every moment. And over time, the realization sets in, you weren't just another person, you were a presence. But here's the kicker, you can't force this realization. If you chase, if you beg, if you remind them of what they lost, you become noise. And let me tell you something, no one values noise. But silence speaks volumes. Silence is power. Now let's talk about self-worth. Too many people define themselves by who stays and who leaves. That's a dangerous game because the moment your worth is tied to someone else's presence, you've already lost control. You are not valuable because someone chooses you. You are valuable because you exist. So what do? You shift your focus. Instead of waiting for them to break under the weight of time, you build yourself up. You work on your goals. You grow in ways they never expected. And one day, whether it's weeks, months, or even years later, they'll look back and realize something painful. You didn't just move on, you leveled up. Understand human psychology. People always crave what they can't have. If you make yourself unavailable, not out of spite, but out of self-respect, watch what happens. They start to wonder, they start to regret, they start to hurt. That's not your goal, but that is the reality. But let me be clear, this speech isn't about revenge. It's about discipline, emotional discipline. It's about choosing to live by your own terms, not someone else's absence. It's about recognizing that you are the prize, and the moment you stop chasing, you become the one who is chased. So let the time do its work. Let the silence be your answer. Let growth be your revenge. And when they finally realize what they lost, you'll be too busy winning to care. Now go out there and own your life. Time is the most powerful force in the universe. It doesn't rush, it doesn't hesitate, and it never stops working. No matter what happens in life, whether it's relationships, careers, or personal challenges, time plays the role of the ultimate teacher. When someone chooses to walk away from you, when they take you for granted, or when they believe they can live without you, the best response is not anger, not revenge, not even words. The best response is time. You see, people are wired to react to absence more than presence. When you're around, they may take you for granted. They may not fully appreciate your value because they assume you will always be there. But the moment you step away, the moment your presence becomes a memory instead of a constant, their mind starts to shift. It's not immediate, it's not overnight, but slowly time starts to work its magic, creating a void that only you once filled. At first, they may not notice the change. They might even feel relieved. They tell themselves that they made the right decision. They convince themselves that life will be just fine without you. But what they don't realize is that time isn't working in their favor. It's working against them. Because as the days turn into weeks and the weeks into months, something shifts. The initial confidence starts to wane. The excitement of freedom fades and reality starts to settle in. Their mind starts replaying the memories, the conversations, the moments of laughter, the way you made them feel. And that's where time becomes the greatest teacher. It teaches them what they failed to see when you were around. It teaches them that your presence wasn't just another part of their life, it was a foundation. The more time passes, the deeper that lesson sinks in. And by the time they realize it, it's often too late. But here's the thing, you don't wait for them to realize it. You don't sit there counting the days, wondering when they'll regret their decision. That's not how time works in your favor. Time works best when you use it wisely. While they are lost in confusion, you are focused on growth. You are becoming stronger, better, and more aligned with your purpose. If you waste your time hoping they'll see your value, you are giving away your power. If you constantly check up on them, send messages, or try to remind them of what they lost, you're interrupting the process. Time works when you let it work. When you step back, when you allow silence to take over, when you invest in yourself instead of trying to fix someone else's perception, that's when the shift happens. The truth is, people don't learn from words, they learn from experience. No amount of begging, pleading, or explaining will make them see your worth the way time will. Time is what makes them realize that no one else can replace what you brought into their life. Time is what teaches them that good people are rare, and losing one is not something easily undone. And let's not forget the greatest lesson of all, time doesn't just teach them, it teaches you. It teaches you patience, resilience, and the art of detachment. It teaches you that your life doesn't pause just because someone else failed to recognize your worth. It teaches you that your energy is better spent on yourself than on trying to prove your value to someone who didn't see it in the first place. So let time be your greatest ally. Let it do the heavy lifting. Let it remind them of what they lost while you focus on what you're gaining. Because in the end, the person who uses time wisely is the person who wins. Your worth is not determined by who stays in your life or who walks away. It is not defined by someone's ability to recognize your value. Too often, people tie their self-worth to external validation, believing that if someone chooses them, they must be valuable, and if someone leaves, they must not be enough. This mindset is dangerous because it places your power in someone else's hands. The truth is, your value does not decrease just because someone fails to see it. When someone pulls away or chooses to remove themselves from your life, it is easy to feel a sense of loss. You might wonder if you could have done something differently, if you should have fought harder, or if you simply weren't good enough for them. But this is where emotional discipline comes in. Instead of focusing on what you lost, shift your perspective to what you still have, yourself. If someone decides to walk away, let them. The moment you try to convince someone of your worth, you are already giving them too much power. The right people will recognize your value without needing constant reminders. Detachment is a skill that allows you to separate your emotions from the actions of others. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means you refuse to let someone else's choices dictate your self-esteem. People will come and go throughout life. Some will cherish you, some will take you for granted, and some will be blind to your worth until it's too late. But none of that changes who you are. The only thing that changes is your ability to recognize that you are whole, with or without them. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that their happiness depends on another person. When you think this way, you give someone else control over your peace. You become reactive, always waiting for someone else's validation to feel good about yourself. But what happens when they don't give it? What happens when they walk away and you've built your entire sense of self around their presence? You crumble. That is why detachment and self-worth go hand in hand. When you know your value, you no longer need outside confirmation. If someone fails to see what you bring to the table, that's their loss, not yours. There is incredible strength in walking away with dignity. When someone leaves or distances themselves, the most powerful response is not anger, not pleading, and not chasing. It's silence. It's standing firm in your self-worth, knowing that you were enough before them and you'll be enough after them. Time has a way of revealing the truth. When you detach and focus on your own growth, something incredible happens. The person who thought they could live without you begins to realize they were mistaken. They start to feel the weight of their choice, and as they process the absence, they begin to see what they took for granted. But by the time they realize it, you'll already be in a different place. You'll have moved forward, stronger, wiser, and more aligned with your true self. The irony is that people tend to value what they can't have. When you hold on to someone too tightly, they pull away. But when you step back and allow them to experience life without you, they begin to understand what they lost. This is not about playing games. It's about maintaining your dignity and self-respect. True power comes from knowing that no matter who leaves, you remain complete. You do not need to chase, beg, or convince. You simply need to continue growing, learning, and becoming the best version of yourself. When you master this mindset, You will never again feel powerless in the face of someone else's choices. You will walk with confidence, knowing that your worth was never up for debate. Human psychology is built on a simple yet powerful principle. People always want what they cannot have. The moment something becomes unavailable, it becomes desirable. This applies to everything: relationships, careers, opportunities, and even material possessions. Scarcity creates value. When something is easily accessible, it is often taken for granted, but when it is removed, the mind starts to crave it. This is why when you walk away or distance yourself, the absence you create has a far greater impact than any words you could ever say. At first, someone might not notice your absence. They may even believe that life without you will be the same or better. In fact, they may feel a temporary sense of relief, especially if they took you for granted while you were present. However, what they fail to realize in the moment is that emotions and attachments do not simply disappear. The subconscious mind works differently than the conscious mind. While someone may logically believe they are fine without you, their emotions will eventually tell a different story. The human brain is wired to attach meaning to experiences, people, and emotions. When you were in their life, whether they admitted it or not, you provided something unique: comfort, connection, energy, or even just the simple security of knowing you were there. But when that is gone, the mind begins to search for it. At first, it might ignore the loss, but over time, something changes. The brain starts replaying memories, recalling conversations, and revisiting emotions. This is when reality sets in. They begin to realize that the presence they once dismissed was, in fact, something valuable. This is the psychology of loss at work. When someone no longer has access to you, their perception of your value increases. What was once familiar now becomes something they long for. The things they once overlooked about you suddenly seem irreplaceable. The qualities they took for granted start standing out in their mind. And the harder they try to replace you, the more they realize that not everyone will bring the same energy, loyalty, or presence into their life. However, this process only happens if you allow it. If you constantly remind them of your presence, reach out, or try to convince them of what they lost, you interrupt the cycle. But they don't get the chance to miss you because you are still there, making yourself available. The key is in giving them the space to fill your absence. When you stop trying to prove your worth and simply remove yourself, that's when they begin to realize what they had. This concept is also seen in everyday life. Think about the moment you lose something important: a favorite piece of clothing, a job opportunity, or even a simple item like a phone charger. You had it, you might not have thought much about it, but once it's gone, it's all you can think about. Suddenly it seems more valuable than ever before. This is because the mind assigns significance to things based on their availability. The less accessible something is, the more we desire it. The same principle applies in relationships. When someone is always available, always giving, always present, they can unintentionally lower their perceived value. But when that presence is removed, it creates a space, a void that cannot be ignored. And in that space, the mind begins to understand the true impact of what was lost. This is why emotional discipline is so important. Instead of chasing someone or trying to remind them of your worth, the most powerful thing you can do is step back and let time and psychology do the work. When you do this, you shift the dynamic. You are no longer the one seeking validation. Instead, you become the one who is missed, the one who is longed for, the one whose absence speaks louder than words. Holding on to grudges and resentment only keeps you trapped in the past, preventing you from moving forward. When someone wrongs you, disrespects you, or walks away without appreciating your worth, the natural reaction is to feel hurt, angry, or even vengeful. You want them to feel the same pain you felt. You want them to realize their mistake, to regret losing you, to see you thriving without them. But here's the truth. Focusing on revenge or proving a point does not serve you. Growth, on the other hand, is the ultimate form of power. Too many people waste their time and energy thinking about how to make someone regret their actions. They strategize ways to make the other person feel guilty, to make them jealous, or to somehow make them suffer. But in doing so, they unknowingly remain emotionally attached to the very person they are trying to move on from. Instead of freeing themselves, they stay stuck in a cycle of negative emotions. What they don't realize is that the best revenge is not proving anything to anyone. It's becoming the best version of yourself. When you shift your focus from resentment to self-improvement, everything changes. Instead of dwelling on what happened, you use it as fuel to become stronger, wiser, and more successful. The energy you once wasted thinking about them is now redirected into building your future. And the irony? The very moment you stop trying to make them regret their decision is when they actually start feeling it. Because nothing is more powerful than witnessing someone thrive without you, especially when they once believed you needed them. Growth over grudges is not about pretending you don't care. It's about realizing that caring too much about what others think is a waste of time. Your happiness, success, and personal evolution should never be driven by the desire to get back at someone. It should be driven by your own commitment to yourself. The more you focus on leveling up, whether it's in your career, health, mindset, or relationships, the less their absence affects you. Eventually, you reach a point where their regret or realization no longer matters because you have outgrown the version of yourself that once cared. People expect you to be bitter. They expect you to stay stuck in the past, to hold on to the pain, to let it consume you. When you choose growth instead, you break that expectation. You become unpredictable, and unpredictability is powerful. The more you grow, the more you separate yourself from the person they thought they knew. And when they finally look back, when they finally realize what they lost, it will not be because you tried to make them see it. It will be because time and growth made it undeniable. This is not just about relationships. It applies to all aspects of life. Whether it's a failed friendship, a lost opportunity, or someone who underestimated you, the lesson remains the same. Your energy is better spent on your future than on your past. Every minute spent resenting someone is a minute you could have used to build yourself into someone even greater. And when you fully embrace this mindset, you become unstoppable. So let go of the need for revenge. Let go of the desire to prove anything to anyone. Instead, focus on growing, evolving, and becoming so unshakable in your confidence that their absence no longer affects you. That is when you truly win. And by the time they realize what they lost, you'll be too far ahead to even notice. When research put it to the test, the person can develop. It is the ability to control your emotions instead of letting them control you. In life, especially in relationships, people often react based on their feelings rather than logic. When someone distances themselves, ignores you, or walks away, the immediate reaction is usually to panic, chase, or seek validation. The mind races with questions. Why are they doing this? What did I do wrong? How can I fix it? But reacting emotionally in these moments only leads to more pain and disappointment. True strength comes from learning to pause, step back, and allow time to work in your favor. When someone expects you to break down, beg, or desperately try to hold on to them, the most powerful thing you can do is not react at all. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending you don't care. It means mastering the ability to process your emotions without acting impulsively. The moment you let your emotions dictate your actions, you hand over your power. But when you remain calm, collected, and unbothered, you shift the balance of control. People respect strength. They respect those who can stand firm even when emotions are high. When you refuse to let someone else's actions shake your peace, you send a clear message. I am in control of myself. I do not need anyone to validate my worth. I do not chase, I attract. This mindset doesn't just make you more powerful in relationships, it makes you powerful in every area of life. The truth is, emotional reactions often come from fear. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of being alone. But fear is an illusion. It makes you believe that without this person you are lacking something. That is not true. The moment you shift your perspective and realize that you are whole on your own, the need for emotional reactions disappears. Instead of trying to convince someone of your value, you let them figure it out on their own. Instead of proving your worth, you simply become so secure in yourself that others have no choice but to notice. This kind of discipline requires patience. It is tempting to react immediately when emotions are triggered. It is tempting to send that message, to make that call, to try to force someone to see what they are missing. But every time you resist that urge, you are strengthening your emotional control. You are teaching yourself that you do not need to act on every feeling that arises. Another important aspect of emotional discipline is learning to detach from outcome. People often stress over whether someone will come back, whether they will regret their actions, or whether they will finally see the truth. But the moment you detach from the need for a specific result, you become truly free. You stop obsessing over what the other person is thinking or feeling, and instead, you focus on yourself. You focus on your growth, your success, your peace of mind. And ironically, the less you care about forcing an outcome, the more likely it is that things will unfold in your favor. Most people do not realize the power of silence. Silence is not weakness, it is strength. When someone expects you to react and you don't, they start to question things. They start to wonder if they made a mistake, if you have moved on, if they underestimated you. And in that moment, the roles shift. You are no longer the one seeking validation, they are. But by then, you won't even need their validation anymore because you will have already found it within yourself. Emotional discipline is what separates those who are controlled by their emotions from those who control their destiny. It is what allows you to walk away with confidence, to focus on your own journey, and to let time and experience teach others what they failed to see. And once you master this, you will never again feel powerless in the face of someone else's decisions. Because true power is not in reacting, it is in remaining unshaken. Life is a constant cycle of change, and the more you embrace it, the more power you gain. Many people struggle with letting go because they resist change. They hold on to relationships, situations, and even memories that no longer serve them, fearing that if they release their grip, they will lose something valuable. But the truth is, letting go is not a loss. It is a gain. When you release what is no longer meant for you, you create space for something better. Most people associate letting go with weakness, as if walking away means giving up, but the opposite is true. Letting go requires immense strength, clarity, and self-respect. It takes courage to say, I deserve better. It takes wisdom to recognize that holding on to something that no longer adds value to your life is only delaying your growth. People often struggle with moving on because they romanticize the past. They remember the good times, the laughter, the connection, and they convince themselves that what they lost was irreplaceable. But memory has a way of filtering reality. It amplifies the moments of joy while downplaying the moments of pain. If something or someone was truly meant for you, it wouldn't require you to beg, chase, or suffer to keep it. The things that align with your highest self will flow into your life effortlessly. The things that cause stress, confusion, or emotional turmoil are usually signs that they are no longer meant for you. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means accepting that some chapters in your life are meant to end so that new ones can begin. There is an incredible sense of freedom that comes with detaching from what no longer serves you. Instead of living in a constant state of wondering what if, you step into a mindset of what's next. Instead of focusing on what you lost, you start focusing on what you can create. This shift in perspective is what allows people to evolve, to grow beyond their past, and to build a future that aligns with their true potential. One of the greatest benefits of letting go is that it raises your standards. When you refuse to hold on to things that don't align with your worth, you naturally attract better opportunities, better relationships, and a better life. Many people settle because they are afraid to be alone, afraid to start over, or afraid of the unknown. But when you let go with confidence, you send a message to the universe, I trust that something better is coming. And when you trust that, it always does. Letting go is also a powerful tool in personal transformation. Every time you release something that no longer benefits you, whether it's a toxic relationship, a limiting belief, or an old version of yourself, you make room for growth. Imagine trying to carry a heavy suitcase everywhere you go. The longer you hold on to it, the more exhausted you become. But the moment you set it down, you feel lighter, freer, and ready to move forward. That is exactly what happens when you let go of emotional baggage. People who struggle with moving on often believe that if they hold on long enough, things will go back to how they used to be. But time only moves in one direction, forward. Trying to relive the past is like trying to stop the ocean waves with your hands. It's impossible, and the longer you try, the more you suffer. But when you learn to flow with life, instead of resisting it, you begin to understand that every ending is a new beginning in disguise. Letting go is not about winning or losing. It is about choosing yourself. It is about knowing that you are not defined by who stays or who leaves, but by how you continue to evolve. It is about realizing that your happiness is not tied to any single person, situation, or outcome. It is something you create within yourself. And once you embrace that, you will never again fear letting go. Instead, you will welcome it, because you will know that every time you release something that no longer serves you, you are stepping closer to the life you were meant to live. Life is a constant journey of growth, self-discovery, and transformation. The moments that test you, the people who walk away, and the experiences that challenge you are not setbacks, they are stepping stones toward your greatest self. When you stop chasing, stop proving, and start focusing on your own evolution, you unlock a power that cannot be ignored. The more you elevate, the more those who once overlooked you will begin to see what they lost. But by then, you won't need their validation. You will have already built a life so full, so abundant, and so strong that their realization no longer matters. Time is the greatest teacher. It reveals truths, exposes regrets, and heals wounds. Instead of wasting energy on proving your worth, allow time to do the work for you. Let absence speak louder than words. Let your growth replace your grudges. Let emotional discipline be your strength. And above all, let go of anything that no longer aligns with your highest self. Because in the end, the longer they go without you, the more they will feel the void you once filled. But by then, you will have already moved forward, stronger, wiser, and completely unshaken. That is the true victory.